Hey guys, welcome back to class. We're doing our next tutorial. So it is, as you can probably tell, type and Illustrator. So we're going to be, hopefully everyone has been able to download Illustrator. I had a few people who said that they could not get access to a computer. And then as I mentioned in Google Classroom, if that's the case for you and you don't have access to a computer, I have access to some old Macs that we had in storage at the school. They're fairly old, but they still have Illustrator on them, and it's an older version of Illustrator, but it works just fine. I've already tested them. I got one computer out to one student so far. No one else has contacted me, so I'm assuming that people have either figured out a solution um, or have installed Illustrator on their own computer or something. Anyways, if you still need access to a computer, email me directly and I will organize with you how to get your hands on a computer with Illustrator on it. Okay? All right, moving on. So we are working in Illustrator today, which is going to be a little bit of a recap for you. You may need a bit of time to go back and remind yourself Illustrator because it's been obviously quite a while. So that's what we'll be doing today. We'll be working on how Illustrator handles type, and we'll be looking at some of the font tools within Illustrator. Okay, so let's start off by opening a file. So you'll be greeted with this, and you're going to create a new file. If you, so far only one student, but if more get their hands on the older version of Illustrator, it might be slightly different from this, but it does essentially the same thing. I don't know what version you guys have if you've downloaded a new version. Again, there might be some minor differences. I'm using 2019, you might be using 2020, I don't know, but you guys have to figure that stuff out on your own. You have to think through that. Okay, so I'm going to start off here. Size doesn't matter for the file that you're working on. And we're just going to go through some of the tools that we are going to see in Illustrator. Now, we'll be doing a couple of pieces of work from the kind of original website. So I'm going to be going to section 3.1. Okay, so if you went to the navigator, just find working with type. This is what we would have done if we were in class. Now that people have access to Illustrator, we can do this. So we're going to go through just a couple of very simple activities, just getting used to how type works in Illustrator. Okay, so the first thing we're going to go is just check out the type tool. So in Illustrator on the left here, you've got your tool palette, if you remember, and we're just going to start off with the first one, which is type tool. Okay, and there are two ways you can use this. First of all, I can just click, and it puts in some standard text called lorem ipsum, which is kind of default text. And if you just start typing St.Romain, it'll start typing, and it'll use some default settings. Okay, to select text, I can double click in the word that I have, or I think if you triple click 1, 2, 3, it selects the entire line. Okay, once text is selected, I can start changing some of the properties. So I can go and I can select a font that I like, and so I'm going to go down to maybe Bodani here, and I'm going to bump up my size. There's a drop down here, but you can also just put in a number right here. So if I wanted that to be 120, that's fine. Okay, the drop down tops out at 72, but you can put in any number you want. And then when you're done with making changes to it, you just click on the selection tool. Okay, and that applies your text. Okay, you'll also notice that I can drag text. Now you shouldn't do what I'm doing. You shouldn't squish text. Type fonts have been designed, as we've learned, by designers, and they're meant to be at a certain width and height of proportion. So you should not squish fonts, okay? You may be tempted to make something fit. The solution to that is to choose a different font, or see if you can find something that's got a different cut of a similar font, right? So if you're using a serif font and you can't get the width that you want, maybe you want to look for something that is a similar font that has kind of more variations in the font set, okay, or in the font family. Okay, so get used to that. Don't squish your fonts. Look for condensed if you need something to be narrower. Notice the difference there. Okay, so a wide font or like a normal font, and then a condensed version. Okay, so that's what you should be looking for if you are looking to make a change to a font. Okay, so you can see how that works. Once I've got it selected, I can make a change by selecting my new font options, and then just selecting that out of my list. Go up to, I also don't know what fonts you guys will have on your machine. So you'll have a different subset of fonts that came packaged with your machine. You can go and add new fonts if you wanted to go and either buy some, which I doubt anyone would do. But you can also go and get free fonts on the internet, a place called dafont, okay, .com, which looks like this, dafont.com. You can get some fonts there. Actually, get tons of fonts there. Not a lot of them are amazing. Some are good. A better place would be if you went to Google, and I can never remember if it's Font Squirrel or Squirrel Fonts, but if you put in, I think it's Squirrel Fonts, Squirrel Fonts. Oh, it's Font Squirrel, sorry. There are a ton of really good, well-designed fonts available here. So if you wanted to get a font from here, you could do that. And then there are ways to say, I'm only looking for sans serif. And then it'll give you a bunch of sans serif fonts. Now, you're going to see, well, that's not a sans serif. You're going to see that there is some overlap, as we've talked about, between things like serif and sans serif, overlapping with like some of the displays. So this is a display font, right? But it also has serifs. So keep in mind that your categories are going to cross over a little bit. Anyways, there you go. In terms of free fonts, there's lots out there. Okay, let's continue. So back to Illustrator. Here is a font, and I've changed my typeface, and I've changed my font family. I've changed my size, and you'll notice that there are some other options here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to open up Window, and it is hidden, kind of hidden down here under Type, and you've got Character and you've got Paragraph. These are sort of the two. There's other stuff here, but Character and Paragraph are the two that we're going to need most often. So I'm going to open up Character, and Paragraph comes packaged with that. And I'm also going to go here to this little drop down and go Show Options, okay? Which will just give me a few more options for my typesetting. Now there are a few things here. You're going to see some of the terms that we've seen, okay? Tracking, and you're going to see this one is kerning, and that's just, if you remember, some people had some trouble actually with kerning and tracking. Tracking is when you change the width of every character in your character set. Okay, so I'm like tightening up my kerning or my tracking here. Okay, whereas kerning is something different. Kerning is the specific. Notice that I can't actually change kerning here. It doesn't give me options because I haven't said which two characters I want to kern tighter. So if I went and double clicked between R and O and I wanted to tighten that up, I can do that in my kerning. I can bring these two closer, and notice it's only bringing those two characters closer. Everything else stays the same. Now, if I were a professional designer and I was trying to get something exact, there's a keyboard shortcut for this. So if I hold Option on a Mac and the arrow key, or I think it'll be Alt on a PC, okay, and you can tighten up the kerning between letters until you're happy with how that sits. Okay, so that would be, that's a little tight, maybe. Okay, so that's kerning. I've now adjusted the kerning between every individual letter, leaving a bit more space here, right? Because I want these to be identified. Now bad, so let's go back to the standard auto. Okay, so that's what it looks like standard out of the box. That's what it looks like, and that is not bad, but it can be cleaned up. If you're doing a word mark for a brand like a logo, you really want that to be perfect. Okay, so that's what kerning is. Whereas by comparison, tracking is everything. Okay, everything, all of the characters. Oh, why is it not working? There. Okay, so that's changing all the spacing, and that's tracking. Okay, hopefully that clarifies. Okay, so I mentioned that there are two ways to use this type tool. One is by clicking the type tool and just typing whatever you want to type. Okay, the other way, I'm going to delete that, is to click and drag a shape, and then you can fill in a full paragraph. So, and it fills it in with what's called kind of fake Latin text, okay, lorem ipsum, and then you can type in whatever you want and it will line break appropriately for you. Oops, you. Okay, oops, again. All right, and what you'll notice is it has given me a dash here. I can turn that on or off under paragraph. So if I go into paragraph and I said don't hyphenate ever appropriately. If I said don't hyphenate, then it wouldn't allow any hyphens, okay? Whereas if that's checked, it does. And you've got some other paragraph options here, right? Alignment. This is going to justify to the width. And the difference between what I see students do often is instead of using this tool, they'll go and they'll start typing like this, like, sorry, this, and then they'll hit enter and start a new line. That's the incorrect way to do it. And the reason is if I need to change something here, I can't make that change. Whereas here with this thing, when I narrow this, you'll see it changes where the line break is, right? So it's gonna, if I imagine I had a whole essay or paragraph or whatever, like a lot of text here, you know, I don't have to go back and like make edits to this. I can just make it wider and it spaces everything out accordingly, okay? All right, so those are your two type tools. Let's go back over to Illustrator here and see what we're doing next. Okay, so the first thing we did was type our name. Okay, so try that. Then take a look at the first initial of your name, and we're going to try and do just get a sense of how varied some typefaces are and what you've got available to you. So my name is Warren, so I'm going to go with W, and I'm going to make it a nice big. If you hold Shift, it'll, at least on my version, I'm not sure what it'll be on your version, so experiment with that. But try and keep that 100% proportions. Don't go changing those. Okay. All right. So just go through and see what fonts are available, and just take a look at how the first initial of your name varies depending on the fonts. And what you can do is actually you can start at the top of this list. You can click here and hit the arrow key. Okay, and you can go down between every typeface just to see. Sometimes it kind of pauses and it doesn't work, and you got to go in and choose the next one. Sometimes I think that has to do with if the font is not working properly. But this is a way to go through and see. And you can also do that here under the character. Okay, and just and this is a nice thing with this character drop down, you can actually see the treatment of each font. So if you're looking specifically for something that is a display font, you can scroll down and be like, oh yeah, this is a display, right? And get a sense of what that looks like. Oops, from here. Okay. And that is here. That's a big W. Okay, that's the next item you're going to do. Then once you're done that, you're going to try a couple of other things. So there are a couple other tools I want to show you, and those are typing within a given shape and then typing on a path. Okay, but I'm going to run out of time on this, so I'll get the first one done, and then we'll move on to the second one. So delete this guy. I'm going to create a shape. Let's just go with a polygon, and I'm going to hold Shift so that it snaps to a straight angle. And once I've got a shape drawn here, I can go to my type tool, and you'll see here the type tool. Actually, I'm going to it may vary on yours. You may have something on your version of this that says area type tool. If not, you can just click on the type tool like that, and then you put your cursor. How does this work? Ooh, you just click on the line. I'm going to do that again. Just click inside this shape, and it'll start to make this smaller. And I'm going to pick a less obnoxious font. Okay, and as I start typing, right, it fills in my shape. Okay, all right. So that would be drawing a shape, and you can draw any shape you want. You can go and make with your pen tool another shape, and then if I click in here, oops, on the line here, it fills in my shape. Okay, give that a shot. Try a couple of shapes. Just get used to how that works. My video is going to run out of time here, so I'm going to continue this in the next video. Okay, see you in a second.